For those of you who haven't met me or know me, I'm Bill, Tim's brother. This is probably kind of hard. I really want to thank all of you who come today. And my wife and I, and my son Josh is here, my other son Abel is here. Josh maybe a little more than the rest of us had no idea of Tim's following. I'm so glad he has so many friends. You know, I haven't lived on the island, and my wife and I both grew up here and graduated high school here on the island. But after we got married and we were already off the island, and Mom used to say, when are you guys going to move back to the island? And I finally had to say, Mom, never. But still, they had a place out in the Hampton Bays. After my dad passed away, she got remarried. And we used to bring the kids out here every year, a couple times a year, out to the beaches, out to Montauk Point. And I'm probably getting things totally out of order here, but before I actually start and really get into it, I want to give somebody who's got opportunities, that since I don't know all of your relationships to Tim, if somebody's got some really good story, short story about Tim, and I would like to take time for those of you who want to, just give me give us all a brief, incident, something crazy or something really important that you dealt with Tim. And that'll help us to know more about his life and his years that, I didn't get to see him very often, a couple, maybe a dozen times over the years, because we just never traveled that much. When we come to the island years ago, we did see him like every year, but in later years, not so much. So if somebody here's got something to say, now's a good opportunity. Before I do my spiel, I don't want to keep us all here too long, but who's got a good story?
Yeah, quick story. Bill Limousine. Tim was a great friend of mine. I used to transport him all around to his concerts and everything. And this one year, I got to meet Josh and Liberty and a couple of their friends. They wanted to go see the ball, and Tim didn't want to drive, of course, so he hired me. And we go into New York City and let the kids go out, and they try to go into 100,000 people trying to go watch this waterfall. So it's just me and Tim, and he's bigger than life. So I open the door to let him out of the car, and he's walking to go his favorite McDonald's, right? So he's going into McDonald's, and all of a sudden this family from someplace in the country, like, oh, who's that guy? And I'm like, oh, you don't know who that is? I go, that's Conrad Dober. Now, I had no idea. We walked into McDonald's, and then he's in there, and he's doing his thing, getting his food. And then I'm like, Conrad Dober, yeah, he played professional football in 1977, St. Louis Cardinals, right? So Tim, unbeknown that I did all this, he comes out, and they're like, oh, Mr. Dober, can I get your autograph? He's like, what? So, Conrad, give him an autograph. They never saw you before, so he does something like that. Like, what did you tell him? Like, nothing. They asked who you were. I just told them you were Conrad Dober. He goes, I don't know where you got that from. So it was always nice to embarrass him and put him in his place because he was very shy. So, what a great guy, and really appreciate everybody at Newman's. You guys were always great with Pal Limousine and all his good friends, Lyndon and everybody else. We lost a good guy, and his family is very special in my heart, and I'll remember him forever. And everybody be safe in this crazy world of masks and everything. And Bill, it's back to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish I could have just seen that. Okay, anybody else got a quick story about Tim?
I'm London. How's I've been an alcoholic since. But anyhow, I can go on for hours, and because we went to 100 Met games. I saw Ringo twice with his nieces and nephews. We saw concerts. We were there for when Piazza made the last out to the Yankees. We were there for when the Yankees beat San Diego in the World Series, Yankee Stadium. The best trip we took. I could go out for hours and hours without a doubt. The best trip we took was we flew into Houston. We went to the Houston Astrodome. The next day was the Houston Oilers game. On Monday, we flew to Dallas for a Monday Night Football game. Dallas, Washington, and they lost our luggage.
Oh.
So we played golf in 100-degree weather. We ended up getting tickets to go to the game, and then the next day we went to a Texas Rangers game when Canseco was on that team. So that was like 4 days, 4 stadiums, 3 days,
Wow.
and that's what we did. We went to Boston. We went to games in Boston. We saw the Bruins and the Islanders, and that's when Cam Neely was a big place, and we were yelling, Healy! Who's Glenn Healy was the goalie for the Islanders. So we were like, Healy is better than Neely! As people spit on us. There's so many stories that I could tell, and if you go to my podcast, but Gloria, you guys stand up because I do this every time we get together. She took Timmy in. I cooked Timmy all the time. And everything. He always come over Saturdays. My mom, dinner. I've cooked him 100,000 steaks. It's got to be at least that many. But I would not have him over for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I just didn't want to do it because I had him over so many times. So Gloria would take him in, and George, and Lisa, and everybody else here. He was one of the family, and he would give me the day who he saw, who was there, which daughters were there. And Christine. She didn't get the parent to come over from Canada and stuff and everything. But that was his life. And Frank, where's Frank? Was Frank in here? And Frank, he worked at Nowens, and Frank and Ann would take Timmy in for Christmas Eve. Oh. And the fish, the dinners and everything that they had, and Timmy would always tell me about the fish dinners, and Frank's brother, all of a sudden, Timmy would tell me about Frank's brother's kids and everything. It was just like amazing amount of people that he would just talk about and everything. It's just like I felt like I was part of their lives, and I never even met Frank's brother. And Frank and I would bond and everything because it was, let's talk about how bad the Jets are, So, and Timmy would tell me, that's what Frank said when we would talk about the Mets. It was negative. Oh, that's what Frank said. Oh, yeah. That was Timmy. Who else am I forgetting? Is his Ann here? Mary Gallagher or something like that? And then Easter was spent over here. And he would tell me about it and everything. He goes, Leah, I can't believe I rebonded with the whole family and stuff and everything because the years were passed. In fact, I went to your house to pick up your uncle, Jay's father. So we would play golf. Here we go. He flies in the flight. Hey, come on! You want to play golf? I took him golfing. I took him on my boat. Catch and fish. He's hanging out with my friends. That was your brother-in-law, I guess.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
All right.
So. Catch me on the podcast.
All right, so I want to talk about his sports stuff. Mets. I'm Yankees. He's Islanders. I'm Rangers. And it's all because I'm like 8 years older than him. So John, my other brother, and I, and then Tim came along later. Well, John and I, we're Yankees, we're Mets, we're Giants, we're Knicks, okay? Tim is the total opposite of all of those. So we brought in some of his Mets stuff, and one of the saddest days in his life was when the Yankees won the World Series in Shea Stadium. I brought some stuff here, and if you didn't read this yet, what this is a puzzle that I was going to give him for his birthday. And this was going to be his birthday card, which I bought 10 months ago. And this is it. It's happy it's your birthday, and the little stadium opens up. So I think, okay, that's a Tim thing if there ever was one. And then Linda and I were out at a store back in Dayton, and we saw this puzzle. It's shaped like home plate. If you haven't looked at it yet, that was going to be his birthday present. Well, obviously he didn't get it. He never knew about it. So what I thought was, let's just put it together, and we did this last night, and let's leave some pieces out, and anybody, and this is what I said on here, if you were a part or a piece, as it were, of Tim's life, then add a piece to the puzzle and use one of the pens and sign your name somewhere, anywhere on the puzzle. And I'm gonna have this framed, glue it and frame it to keep. Because Tim was all about baseball. So that's something for, if you want to do that, and make sure if you sign the book, you get one of the cards if there's any left. Because I wanted to say just a couple things about Tim that are what I would call, number one, were the Tim-isms, the stuff that he would say. It's like he could never finish saying, "Have a merry," right? So he'd always leave off the last word, have a happy. What was that, Halloween, New Year's, birthday, what is it? He just seemed to go on and leave out the end of it, and that's just kind of a thing. Then he would say take it ease, or yo dude. Just the little, I call them the Tim-isms, things that he would say. And people would know him by some of these, what I would call corny things that he'd say. There were Tim stories, and we heard a couple. I was talking to my mom, just about 2 days ago. She's 93. She lives down in Florida. She couldn't make the trip. So I said, "Mom, do you have any stories about Tim? I mean, something that I could tell, a short story." And she says, "Well, I have one. It's kind of funny, but it's really tragic." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what is it? Maybe I could use it." She said, "Well, yeah, after my dad passed away, they lived in Bay Shore, and Tim still lived at the house. So Mom was going to go away for a couple of days on a trip. So she was going for 4 or 5 days, and she had a fish tank or a fish bowl with a goldfish in it. And she said, 'Tim, all you need to do is sprinkle a couple of things to feed the goldfish, for a couple of days till I get back.' Well, she gets back, Tim doesn't say anything, and she goes, and in the fish tank is a fake goldfish. What happened to the fish? And you never, well, at least she told me that, he never said anything. I guess he thought she wouldn't notice. So that was a Tim thing. Tim's job. One of the things he would always be telling me about when he had to change jobs several times, and I remember when he got back to Newlands, he was so glad and happy to be back at Newlands Ford. And I'm glad he finished there. And I was telling some of the other girls here that worked there that I remember my dad bought one car, one Ford in his lifetime, and it was a canary yellow station wagon from Newlands Ford. Bought it brand new, and we took a lot of family vacations in it. Tim's friends, I am just amazed by this turnout here today. Honestly, when we first heard about this, I was just going to come here, clean out his stuff, and then head back home. And then the word got around, man, there's people here that know him and they want to see him. And I said, well, maybe we should do something like this. And so here we are. Those of you that when we got into the cell phone era, did you get not an icon like on every holiday? I don't know if he had a group list or if he just sent 60 texts. But he had every holiday covered. And he didn't do repeats. I mean, he'd get a different icon every year. and then people's birthdays. It's amazing how he kind of got into that technology. Just really was such a wonderful thing that you knew him by. You know, you could expect it. And when none of us got one, you know, of course, I didn't know what happened to him already, and didn't get one on Christmas Day. It's like, where's Tim? You know, he was still in the hospital. So, the other thing that, as we were going through his stuff, something else I wanted to tell you about Tim. Now before that, I do want to go ahead and play a couple of songs. The first, are we ready, Abel? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the first one is going to be one that when my brother John passed away, and I've been about 4 years ago, and this is one that I played for John, and you know, on his behalf, and I said, well, and when you hear it, you'll know it, and you'll know why I played it. Okay, John, Abel. Hopefully this technology works. That was how I felt about John, because he was struggling down in Florida, because after they moved off the island to Florida. So I went and visited him a number of times after he they had to sell their house and move into an apartment. Maureen moved back here to the island, and I visited him a lot of times. And one of the times I was there, his TV wasn't working, and all it was is the guy who I plugged it in for him just had the cables all wrong, so I just fixed that, and he thought that was amazing. So when John passed away, and we were down in Florida and at Mom's, and Tim didn't make the trip, but I said, Tim, if you had a song to play, what would you give a song for John? And this is the one that Tim picked out for his brother John, and we're just going to play what Tim requested. Okay, so that was a Beatles song. Does anybody know that he was a Beatles fan? Not a surprise to anybody? Okay, so I have to tell a story about that. There was one a number of years ago, I'm going to say 10 or more years ago. It had to be more than 10 because Al was still alive. So Mom and Al came out to Ohio. Tim came out to Ohio. I think it was around Christmas time. Our kids were all still in the area, and so I think it was charity. They had gone out and bought a replica of the Beatles at Shea Stadium poster that was the advertising poster, that if you actually had a copy of that, it would be worth a massive amount of money. So Tim, he unrolls it and he sees this poster and he looks at it and says, oh, I remember, I wanted to go to that. And I said, Tim, you were 3. That was Tim. So, and I don't know I don't know how he got into the collecting of that stuff, but he had a massive collection. And he told me he sold a bunch of it off. If that's true, then he owned everything there was. So we boxed it up, and but just kind of as a finale for that, let's just play the next song. So this will wrap up his Beatle mania that he seemed to miss out on when the rest of us were growing up. So I just find that the song has found new life in the NHL because when there's a coach's challenge against the home team, the home team PA plays Let It Be. Don't override the call, especially if it was a goal. So, but I wanted to tell you one more part about Tim's life that many of you may not be aware of. Our dad was a preacher. He was a Baptist preacher. And he also did magic. And he would do gospel magic at church rallies, banquets, and every one of me first, then John, and then Tim were assistants to him as he would travel around the whole northeast area here. In churches from, of course, Long Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, even south towards Maryland, New Jersey. Well, we try to avoid New Jersey. We would go and do all these rallies and stuff. And Tim, you know, by the time I was out of school, high school, and into away to college and so forth, I really never was much at home anymore. And then John kind of got out on his own and moved in with Jay and his cousin. And so Tim was left at home with Mom for a number of years because she was in Bay Shore, then she sold her Bay Shore house, moved out to a place in a condo out in Holbrook, and Tim was there. So while my dad was still alive, Tim was the one and only helper left. So he had as we each grew up, as we were going through his things, I found Tim's original Bible. And in it, there's some things that are just amazingly, and they're very important. For instance, he has a little thing where he has I, and then there's a bunch of arrows next to that. And it says, you know, next to the I, it says, I loathe, detest, hate, dislike, despise. And then out to the right it says, the devil. Well, we all ought to hate and despise, loathe the devil because he is the source of our trouble here on earth. Then below that he says, my life verse. So he had a verse that, I guess this is in, I want to say, junior high or high school era. My life verse, Ephesians 4:32. And that is, and our kids all memorize this because we made them. No, and be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. I don't know if Tim ever held a grudge against anybody. He was kind, to my knowledge, to just about everybody. I know he helped people. I mean, he didn't have a ton of money. You know, he lived in his little basement apartment for like 27 years. He maybe didn't push out, you know, what he believed, but he practiced it. He was kind. I think he forgave people. It was just seemed to be his nature. When we would get mad and upset at things, you know, we hold grudges. We all do for years. It seemed like him didn't. I really don't know. I felt like that he maybe exemplified what he called his life verse. Be kind. Be kind to each other. Be kind to other people. And that was very important. It was important for me to know that. And he even wrote out here on the edges of the gold pages, wrote out here things like, you know, this is the Bible, Tim. But then he wrote a verse on here, another one that's an important verse the Bible says, is Romans 3:10. It says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. You know what that means? That's an admission of we're all sinners. And I don't know everybody's spiritual situation here, but I wanted to let you know that at one point in his life, that was very important to him, even if he didn't carry it outwardly near the end of his life. But I will tell you, just a couple of weeks ago when he was in the hospital, or maybe I got home between hospital trips, I don't remember exactly when it was. I was talking to him, and we talked about a lot of things, the Mets and the hockey and all the other stuff that we talked about. But at the end, I said to him, Tim, do you remember years ago whether or not you get to know the Lord? Did you turn your heart over to him? In other words, did you accept him as your Savior, as the Bible teaches us to do? And he says, oh yeah, I remember that. I mean, just without hesitation. And what that is evidence that when God forgives us, if you ask him, then he saves you eternally. And I have no doubt today that because of that decision, that Tim's at home in heaven. I hated to see him suffer. Here's what I know now that I probably didn't realize, and maybe some of you did more than I would have known because of you saw him more often. I believe he suffered terribly. He struggled to walk. He struggled. He came out, I sort of guilted him into coming to see my mom last spring because he hadn't been down there in 4 years. And I said, Tim, you need to go see Mom. This is like in about April or May. It was near May because we were there on Memorial Day. So I said, Tim, you really need to see Mom. So he says, yeah, I was thinking of making a trip next year. I said, no, Mom's not doing all that well. You need to see her now. He said, oh, all right. So I'll think about it. So, well, a couple days later, he called and said, I made reservations. And I said, if you go down there, I will fly down there. I will meet you. I'll pick you up at the airport. I'll drive you anywhere you need to go. Because Limo Bill wasn't available. Well, if I told you, you would have come down and done that. So I did. I met him at the airport, and I did not know until later on when he was telling us how he struggled. He could not, they let him off, and when you go through security, you're at gate 1, and he's like gate 19 is where he's got to go. At his current state, it was going to take him an hour to get there. But one of the little golf cart guys saw him and took him to the gate. And I picked him up. He got to see Mom. So he suffered. And I know now that he was probably in pain all the time, and he didn't complain about it. I mean, maybe he grunted a little bit, and when you're in pain and you wince and stuff. But like when I heard that he fell, he said, "Oh no, I'm okay. I don't want to go to the hospital." And I'm thankful that you people sent him to the hospital because he wasn't going to go. So Tim suffered, but his suffering is over now. And you wonder, why does this happen? The Bible says in Matthew 5:35. Not that this is a reason for anything, but let me just read a verse for you, because it kind of answers this question: why do we suffer? Well, we suffer because of the original sin given to us by Adam and Eve. But here's what Christ said when he was on earth. This is from Matthew 5. To the right page here, 35. So it says, 5. Do I have the right verse? Not a 5:45. Okay, there we go. There it is. And he's got it underlined. I said, he says, there's 2 verses here. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you. Now, Tim underlined it, not me. Do good to them that hate you. I think there were people who probably didn't like Tim for whatever reason, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. And here's the reason why. The next verse says, that ye may be children of your Father which is in heaven, for he maketh the sun to rise on the evil and the good. So when the sun comes up, it comes up on the bad people too, as well as the good people. And he sendeth the rain on the just and the unjust. So even good people get rained on. You know, but then it turns out, that's what this Romans 3:10 verse says, you know, there's none righteous, no, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So what does God do for that for us? God provided a way for all of us to get out of eternal punishment, and that is a verse that you've probably all seen, even in a sports stadium. Somebody will hold up John 3:16. And that verse is, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Tim did that in his teens, and that's still true to the day you die. So when I had to hear that when they called me from the ICU and said, I'm sorry, but your brother has passed away. His heart just couldn't hold out any longer. He was in bad shape at that point. And so God provided a way. All we have to do is believe and accept Jesus Christ as our own personal Savior. And any one of you that have not done that, I would just encourage you now to follow Tim's example and take care of that before your day you end up in the hospital unexpectedly. So I want to play one more song, Tim, or Abel. This is the one I want to close with, and then we can all move on and take care of some of these other things if you want to look around, see the pictures and so forth. But it's important to me that you all know that I feel like Tim had a point in his life. Maybe he didn't follow it, you know, to be the religious kind of person. But this is what it's important to me. I would want to thank all of you from the deepest part of my heart for coming here today and just participating in Tim's passing and his life. And if you want to hook up with Lyndon and hear more stories. But I really do appreciate my wife and I have wished we could have done more for Tim. You know, he made his own choices on how he lived, tried to talk him out of it. Now I'm never going to move out of there. But for those of you that loved him and took care of him, fed him, and did all the things that he went to parties and games and all things, thank you all so much for the life that you gave him here on earth while he was here. I can't thank you enough. And you're welcome to now carry on and thank you.
Want to mention the candles?
Oh, the candles. Yes, the candle girl. Is she here? Yes, she is. We found all these in Tim's apartment. Some of you ladies want to come grab a candle.
Well, they're not.
Well, let the girls have first place. And you're welcome to have one. And you want to sign the puzzle, put a piece in, do that too. Thank you again for being here today.